It's interesting when we think about this idea of of wisdom, walking in wisdom. What do you do in situations like this? What do you do when things start to go haywire? And how do you keep moving? How do you pick up the pieces? How do you decide what's right to do and what's wrong to do? And I think this is really a great example of our talk, Walking in Wisdom. Now, we began the year with our Roaring Twenties. That's the theme for this year, the Roaring 2020s. And if you recall, 100 years ago, anybody remember that? 100 years ago, we had a cultural revolution where things changed. Jazz appeared, and women got to vote, and there were things that were happening in the 20s that were very exciting. And at the same time, there were things that were happening in the 20s 100 years ago that were very frightening. And so here we are 100 years later, and our theme this year that we chose was Roaring 2020s, from the perspective of creating a spiritual revolution, creating a time when we as a culture, as a society, raise up our consciousness, raise the collective consciousness, raise the consciousness of the world through our spiritual revolution. So in the last few months, we have been focusing on this from the perspective of first of beingness. Who have I come here to be? How am I going to be in this experience of life? Be in this journey as my divine self, as my spiritual self, as that spark of divinity that's within me? How can I come to the world expressing more fully that divine consciousness that is my true self? And then once we understand that, we moved into a time of establishing our purpose in life, of disconnecting all the cables and deciding what is it that is ours to do, and how are we going to move forward, reconnecting the cables, and how are we going to move forward with our life and express and experience things in a greater level. And then we went on to courage, because sometimes doing that, having that opportunity to move into our state of beingness, of purpose, takes courage. It takes a little bit of inner work to do what we've come here to do, to be who we've come here to be. And so that is the real question, is how can we continue to move forward with that? And how do we know what's right to do and what's wrong to do? And that's where wisdom comes in. And that's our theme for this month. And today our title is Walking in Wisdom. Now, the idea is calling upon that divine wisdom, turning within to tune ourselves into spirit so that we can understand what is a wise and loving thing to do as we move forward, and to receive guidance for as we navigate life through all of its challenges, through all of its unexpected quirks, through all of its disappointments, and through all of its joys, through all of its wonders. There's an interesting idea here, and that is what came to me last couple of Sundays, and that was generated from the idea of the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to tell the difference. So what is wisdom? What does that wisdom really include, and what does it mean? Well, I went online and decided let's look up the definition of wisdom and start there. And the definition that I found was the soundness of an action or decision with regard to the application of experience, knowledge, and good judgment. And when I read that and listen to that definition, it sure sounds like something that we're evaluating the past with, doesn't it? I mean, how we all intend to go forward with a sound application, with experience, with our knowledge, with good judgment. And then later we look back and really think, well, was that a wise thing to do or not? So from a human perspective, we're usually using this idea of wisdom to evaluate what we've done in the past, what was good, what was bad, and then to judge ourselves or judge other people as to what was wise or what wasn't wise, what worked well, what served us, and what didn't. But I think what we need to do is shift it around a little bit and not look at it from a human perspective of wisdom, but really from a spiritual perspective of wisdom. The soundness of our action. So Charles Fillmore had this to say about the definition for wisdom. The metaphysical or spiritual definition for wisdom is the natural knowing capacity that's within us. That's our capacity to know truth. It's an inner knowing, the immediate apprehension of spiritual truth without resort to intellectual means. In other words, he says the wisdom of the heart. So it's a deep inner knowing. As he put it, he often talked about it from the idea of intuition, where spiritual insight comes to us from an idea of intuition, from this place of kind of knowing who we are, of having that inner feeling. Now, the way we get there, the way we get into that state of knowingness, of beingness, and drawing forth that inner wisdom is the most effective way, I think, is through meditation and prayer. Now, in unity meditation, in unity prayer, we have a pattern, we have a process. It's a combination of meditation and prayer. We begin with relaxation. We go into a state of meditation where we're first relaxing our body, we're relaxing our mind, we're allowing our thoughts to settle, we're allowing our emotions about whatever's happening on the live stream or in our life. We just allow them to settle for a moment. And then we move into a state of meditation where we're focused on our breathing, or we're focused on an affirmation, such as, I am at peace, I am one. We're moving into a state of meditation where that voice within us, that stillness, that affirmation, that mantra, whatever it is that we have, becomes stiller and quieter until we move into a state of the silence. And the silence is our oneness, where our mind is still, our emotions are still, and we are just one with the divine presence of life, love, and wisdom. Where we are one with life, we are one with spirit, and we just express and experience that. And then after that silence comes the idea of affirmation, because during the silence, what we've done is we've raised our consciousness up to a point where we can see things more clearly, where we are at our peak. It's the highest form of mind action, as Charles Fillmore would say. It's our highest state of consciousness. And from that state of consciousness, we apply our prayer treatment, our application, our affirmative application, where we are affirming the truth of the situation, where we're affirming the truth of us, affirming our beingness. And then after we do that, we have a portion of gratitude, of being grateful for being in the experience. Now, briefly, that's the unity prayer process. That's how we meditate in general. And there's many ways in which you can meditate in prayer. Another example of that is the contemplative prayer practice. It's a wonderful way to bring into it a question so that we can receive the wisdom about whatever it is that we're questioning. There's a wonderful application of this, and where that intuition comes into play. And that intuition comes to us as what we have heard of as the still small voice. The still small voice. That inner knowing. That inner intuition. Now, I've looked this up. This is from 1 Kings, and it's talking about this idea that, God didn't speak as this thunderous fire or thunderous boom. It was a still small voice. And as I went from different interpretations and different versions of the Bible, that it changed. It went from that still small voice to a gentle whisper. And I think from the NRSV version, one that's probably a little bit more closely to the original translation, it's the sheer sound of silence. The sheer sound of silence. And that's what we're getting into through the unity prayer practice. That's what we're getting into, is that sheer sound of silence, where we are experiencing our oneness. And that wisdom that comes to us as an intuition. It's what I like to call that divine impulse, that experience of, there's something new. There's a piece of wisdom coming through me. It's that intuition, that feeling, that knowing that's within us. And it's from that impulse that we take that knowing and we give it shape and form out of substance, and we bring it into manifestation. So we go from that divine impulse, and then we bring it into manifestation. That process of bringing it into manifestation is really an intellectual process. It's taking the wisdom of the heart, leading it through some sort of interpretation process, giving it language, giving it form, drawing it through into substance, limiting that divine idea so that we can bring it into this relative finite world and bring it into existence. And so it's really an experience that is of receiving that divine inspiration and then doing something with it. Now, if you're more of a feeling person, you'll probably have feelings. It'll probably be an upliftment, an emotion, a sense of, this is it. If you're a thinking person, it will probably come through to you immediately or more quickly as thoughts and words and ideas. But whatever way it comes to you, know that it's that intuition, that divine impulse that's within you that we can open up to at any point in time. It doesn't take an hour of meditation because we can do it simply by moving into that still space. Now, that may take practice. It may take an hour of meditation to develop the skill, to develop the practice and the mental intuition of or the mental state of being able to become still. It may take some practice to develop that, but once we do, we then bring it into that intellectual process of changing it and creating thoughts out of it, creating a plan out of it, creating goals out of it. That's when we start to move our feet. And so by bringing that impulse into manifestation, we do that according to our faith, our imagination, our will to do it, as well as hopefully wisdom. And so I'm going to reach over here just one moment so I can bring up the affirmation. No worries. Can you transfer that for me, love? To the slides. To the slides. Yeah. Our affirmation today is on the screen, hopefully, and I invite you to affirm it with me. Knowing my union with Spirit and with clarity of purpose, I courageously walk my path, guided every step of the way by the wisdom of my heart. By the wisdom of my heart. Now, if you looked at the website before the service, you might have seen this affirmation, and it might say something different like, by divine intelligence, because as you can see, I was clearly in my head at the time. Because it really isn't that intelligence, it's the wisdom of my heart. One of the challenges that we have in life is how do we get to that idea from that divine inspiration, that spark that's within us, that impulse, into manifestation. And what I often hear is the question, how do I know if it's spirit or ego? How do I know which it is? Well, as we go from that divine idea, from a capital I, that infinite potential of whatever it is, in order to bring that infinite potential into something specific, we have to limit it. And so we take that divine idea and we start to limit it and give it shape, give it substance, give it form, and bring it forth from our own thoughts and our own ideas. That intellectual process takes that spirit-informed impulse and brings it through a process that we're very consciously doing, where we're making decisions, and that's our ego process. So it's a both and. We're not separate from one or the other. It's a both and. The real question is, who's driving the bus? Is spirit driving the bus? Is our higher consciousness, that Christ consciousness, that divine spark, that higher mind, whatever it is you want to call it, that we have, is that side of us driving the bus, or is our ego driving the bus? The process is an intellectual process that is spirit-informed and ego-driven. And when we're in that process, we need to discern, how am I moving through it? Am I moving through it wisely? Am I moving through it from the wisdom of my heart? And, you know, we all get frustrated. We all get angry when things don't go the way we want them to go. We all get disappointed. We all have disappointment in life, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the way life is. The question is, how are we going to respond from it? Are we going to respond from the anger, the frustration, the ego? Or are we going to draw upon the wisdom of our heart? And so when we get to that point, that state where we become a little frustrated, it's at that moment when we need to take 3 breaths. On the first breath, we pause. On the second breath, we presence ourselves with that divine spirit within us, a divine essence of us. And then on the third breath, we proceed. We proceed from the wisdom of our heart. Now, you might think about this from the perspective of, let's say I'm in a class or I learn some new principle. I learn a new way to practice meditation, or learn a new skill set around forgiveness or affirmations. And you may experience this ego taking over when the ego says, you know what, this just doesn't work for me. I need to do it this way. And my thoughts are, great. If that's the way you need to translate it and make it work for you, then make it work for you. But recognize that's what our ego does. Sometimes we have this great idea, and we have this great idea and we want to move forward with it, but it's just not the right moment. Or first, before I do that, I have to do some study on it. I have to do some research before I do anything. And before you know, it's next year and nothing's happened except for a lot of paperwork, if that. That's our ego getting in the way of that divine impulse. So instead of allowing ego to take the bus and to wrap it into some ongoing intellectual process, go back to your heart. Go back to that impulse that you originally had, that lifted you up, that excited you. There's a saying throughout the years, the longest journey you'll ever take is from your head to your heart. Now, I'm not sure exactly who said it. I've read multiple paraphrases of it, attributed to different people. And in fact, it might have been Andrew Bennett who actually quantified it or gave it a measurement. The longest journey you will ever take is the 18 inches from your head to your heart. Does that look like? Maybe he had a really long neck. I don't know. But that is the longest journey that we will ever take because we like to live up here. Even when we're in our emotions, even when we're driven by emotion, we're still living from an experience of the ego recognizing, hey, here's the emotion I'm having. We're not living from the wisdom that comes from our heart. And so the challenge is to move our attention again away from that intellectual stall back into our heart space where we had that original divine impulse. And so you might ask yourself, if you're trying to discern whether this is my ego driving the bus or whether this is my heart wisdom driving, ask yourself, is this for the highest and best of all beings? Is this for the highest and best of all parties involved? Not just me and what I think is best. Not just me and what I think is best for you. But is this the best way to proceed for the highest and best outcome for the health, for the harmony in whatever relationship, whatever experience that you're having? Next, we talk about this with our kids, and we talk about it from the perspective of this idea of think. And that's an acronym for, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? And is it kind? So before we make a response, think. Is what I'm thinking and reacting to, is it actually true? And boy, don't get me started. I could do 5 talks just on is it true or not. Maybe you need to do a Byron Katie's the worksheet, or the Q process worksheet, or something that gets you in tune with, is this reality? Or am I just blowing it up? Is it helpful? Is it going to help people? Is it a beneficial? Will it be beneficial for all involved? Is it inspiring? Does it inspire people to actually want to do it or follow it or go along with it? And is it necessary? Is it really needed? Or is it just my ego wanting to look cool? Is my ego wanting to be right and see how much I know? And bottom line, is it kind? Is it something that can express kindness and compassion for another? Does it create more harmony or does it create more disharmony? Is it at the expense of other people or is it a benefit to all people involved? Those are some questions to help you know whether this idea, this impulse is really from spirit or whether your ego has hijacked it and turned it into something different. Now, as a spiritual community, we've got the same things going on. We have this idea of these aren't ideal times for our spiritual community. We can't get together. Sometimes there are things that happen with the technology that are out of our control. They were working fine a couple minutes ago, and then they're not. So what can we do as a spiritual community? Well, we have to adapt. That's where empowered acceptance comes in. And it isn't that, we have to say, well, this is life and life sucks. We may feel that, but how can we move through it in a better way? How can we move through it and experience it more? So we've had some great divine ideas come through. I've had some great suggestions. One of the things that we've done every year since I've been here and since before that is a fall enrichment program. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about the upcoming fall enrichment program. We are not going to meet in small groups in person. We're going to meet virtually. So this is a 6-week online small group experience from September 13th through October 17th, using the book, The 5 Intentions. It's an opportunity for us to come together where I will be speaking each Sunday about one of the intentions, starting with the kickoff. And then each intention as we go through, I'll be talking about. And then each week, you have the opportunity to meet with a small group to take it even deeper, to really discern, how is this working for my life? How am I bringing this idea of empowered wisdom, my heart wisdom, to this idea? The first invitation is don't wait. And that will start in the second week of the program. And then we have everything is welcome, push nothing away. The third invitation, bring your whole self to the experience. The fourth invitation is find a place of rest in the middle of things. And the fifth invitation that will cap the program is cultivate the don't know mind. Now, this is an incredibly powerful book that I've really enjoyed. It's something that I've worked on with Martha Creek as a class. It's something that I've done individually. I was working on individually. And so what we would like, though, to really make this sing is to have you, anybody who has the willingness to step into this role of a host or a facilitator or both, so that you can host a group. That is, you have a Zoom account or a Google Meet account or something where you can bring people together for an hour, and you can and you're willing to or somebody who's willing to facilitate. And the facilitation is simply, everyone will have a facilitation guide, a study guide. It's really just a matter of helping to pace people through the questions so that everyone has an opportunity to speak, and so that you can make connection, so that you can learn from each other, so you can dive deep and hear the heart wisdom from each other. And so if you'd like to be a host and or a facilitator, we have an orientation coming up on the 30th of this month. It's for an hour and a half. And if you are interested, go to our website and you can sign up for that today. And that'll be a wonderful opportunity for us to start developing that and for you to start understanding, what's involved. And on the 30th, we'll also have I think around that time we'll start, maybe the next day we'll start up signups for small groups online. So it's an incredible opportunity for us to get together, to connect with each other, and to dive deep into spiritual principle and learn from the heart wisdom from each other. There have been some other wonderful ideas that have come up throughout the years that we're starting to work on. There's the idea of pickup parties and expanding pickup parties. And what if we just had a connection group? And, we used to have these very elaborate pickup parties where you'd go sailing on the bay or go for hikes and things like that. Well, what if we just had a connection time? What if we had a 3-week connection pickup party? And you could sell tickets to it, or you can make it a donation basis, whatever you want to do. But we're going to facilitate that by creating something on the website that's very easy for you to set that up. We also had a wonderful idea of somebody who wanted to donate the flowers in honor of somebody. And that's something that we've done for many years at our spiritual center. And so what we're looking for, what's a meaningful way to do that? We certainly have people that have already contributed to that, and we can bring that back and maybe share all of their everything that they wanted to honor. And then we can open it up to more. Now, you'll see the flowers. I usually pick them up, and Tiffany usually arranges them. But I don't know, maybe there's a way we can ask our florists if they can deliver flowers so we can have a more, prominent display. Or it's still an ideation phase, but there's another way for us to roll with it, another way for us to use the wisdom of our heart to make that connection and to move forward. Certainly one of the ways that you can do this is by taking time in the silence, by contemplating and discerning what is highest and best for everyone involved in the situation, not just what you think is the right thing to do, but really leaning on the wisdom of your heart, not as much the intellect, but allowing that heart wisdom to come through and allowing that heart wisdom to guide you. I'd like to, before we go into we're gonna have Deborah sing her solo right after my talk here, and so I'd like to conclude the talk with a poem by Joyce Riley called "The Harvest," and this is from my mom's book, "Color This Day Beautiful." And I think this really describes what happens when we live heart-centered, when we live from that joy from the heart, that wisdom from the heart. The harvest is what happens. From the treasures of my heart, from the groundwork of my soul, seeds of love are bursting forth, fully ripe and whole. I give them through kindness, through service, and through prayer. I find more fruit to harvest and more good seeds to share. And from the wisdom of our heart, let us give thanks and celebrate by listening to Deborah sing her solo to us. Take it away, Deborah.
Thank you, John. And you are driving the bus really well today. And something that my father used to share with me was to think more with my heart, a saying of think more with your heart than with your head. So off we go with this fabulous arrangement that Russell put together, this song called Thrive. Joy unspeakable, faith unstoppable, love unsinkable, anything is possible. Joy unspeakable, faith unsinkable, love unstoppable, anything is possible. Joy unspeakable, faith unsinkable, love unstoppable, anything is possible. Joy unspeakable, faith unsinkable, love unstoppable, anything is possible. Just to know you and to make you known, I feel you in my heart. Shine like the sun, make darkness run and hide. Here in this worn and weary land, where many a dream has died. Like a tree planted by the water, we will never run dry. So living water flowing through, know we thirst for more of you. Fill our hearts and flood our souls with one desire, just to know you and to make you known. We left your name on high. Shine like the sun, make darkness run and hide. We know we were made for so much more than ordinary lives. It's time for us to more than just survive. We were made to thrive. Joy unspeakable, faith unsinkable, love unstoppable, anything is possible. Joy unspeakable, oh, and love unstoppable, anything is possible. Joy unspeakable, faith unsinkable, love unstoppable, anything is possible. Oh, anything is possible. And just to know you and to make you known, we left your name on high. Shine like the sun, make darkness run and hide. And we know we were made for more than just ordinary lives. Now it's time to do more than just survive. We were made to thrive. Yes, we were made to thrive. Love unstoppable. Don't you know that anything is possible?
Thank you, Deborah. Unity Palo Alto is here to help you live life better by teaching positive, practical spiritual principles that you can apply in your day, apply in your life every day. That's the word. We're so glad that you're here. We're so glad that you're a part of this, and I'd like us to take a moment to move into a time of affirmative prayer. As we hold in our hearts our prayer requests, knowing that divine love is doing its perfect work in each situation, revealing the spiritual magnificence in each person, and establishing spiritual wholeness now. We surround our dear friend Wilma Milligan, who is having some difficulties after a heart episode. And so if you'll hold Wilma in your heart, in your thoughts, in your prayers, knowing that divine love is surrounding her now. We surround all of the care workers who have been supporting us through this experience of the pandemic. And we surround all of the people who have succumbed to this COVID-19 virus, who are suffering from this virus. We surround them with our love. We surround them knowing that divine love is doing its perfect work for health and wholeness now. We hold this same prayer for our world, national, state, and local leaders, seeing them making wise and loving decisions for peace on earth, goodwill, equality, and justice for all people. And for this time together, we are joyfully grateful. We're grateful to come together in this state of knowingness, knowing that divine love is doing its perfect work now as we co-create a world that works for all. And so it is. Amen. And with a nice deep cleansing breath, I invite us now to move into our spiritual practice of living in the flow of abundance. Unity Palo Alto is a self-sustaining spiritual center, and we're here to help people do life better through spiritual living. There are many ways in which you can support our spiritual community. You can support us through our website, by donating directly to PayPal, by mailing in a donation. whatever it is that is yours to give. And so, what I'd like you to do is bless your gift with your love. Surround it with this energy, this field of from your heart, of love from your heart, that heart wisdom, and to unfold it with your love as we say the affirmation that is on the screen together. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. And so it is. Amen.
Hi, Unity Palo Alto. My name's Julie Grabscheid, and I'm part of your Sharing Abundance Committee. And this month is August, and our Sharing Abundance recipient is Mission Hospice. They say that death, dying, and loss are not medical events, but human experiences that touch each and every one of us. Mission Hospice believes that everyone in their last phase of life deserves care that is aligned with their beliefs, wishes, and values. To make this a reality, and to create a more compassionate community, they are engaging people in conversations and education about end-of-life care long before it's needed. Their community education program helps people in the following way. They help them become more comfortable with discussions about death and dying. They help them to learn the benefits of palliative and hospice care. They help them consider their values and wishes for their last phase of life and to gain peace of mind by being able to communicate these wishes. And finally, they want them to find information, support, and care in our local community. Mission Hospice offers a variety of ways to participate in these kinds of conversations. They have death cafes, which are an international movement to offer ways to have open conversations about death, dying, and grief. Take Charge programs provides facilitated conversations about end-of-life planning. Movies at Mission Hospice offer a series of documentary films, art, and writing workshops that are offered to support those exploring loss, grief, and healing. These workshops and trainings are done by local and national experts in end-of-life care support professionals that are working in this area. All of this programming is supported by a wonderful group of community members who are trained as community ambassadors. These ambassadors provide event support, and they represent Mission Hospice at conferences and health fairs. And the community education program could not exist without the support of these incredible volunteers. And they want to thank Unity Palo Alto as well and the Sharing Abundance group for allowing them this honor of being a recipient. And they say that our funds will allow them to continue doing this good work in our community and to educate people about death, dying, and loss. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julie, and our Sharing Abundance team. I'd like to also remind you that after the service today, we'll be here for Spiritual Coffee Talk, followed by the Unity Palo Alto Prayer Service with Casey Wicker. There's just one Zoom. It's the same Zoom. You can sign up on either of those items on our website and then join us today for Coffee Talk and our prayer service. And with that, I'd like to invite Deborah to sing our closing song. Take it away, Deborah.
Thanks, John. You guys are going to know this one. So at home, just blow it out your ears. When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. Oh, loving Spirit, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me. stand by me. If the sea that we look upon, oh, should tumble and fall, and the mountains should crumble to the sea, oh, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. Oh, loving Spirit, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me.
And now our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Peace and blessings, everyone. Have a wonderful week, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Blessings.